Chapter 25. With North Star Records set in motion, sometime during the third week of March 1998, Vidal Spider Fabella, an NF member from Sacramento, paroled from Pelican Bay State Prison with instructions from Rubalcaba to report to Robert Little Grattan in Modesto. He was further instructed to function under his guidance and personally deliver a few messages, both written and verbal. With orders in hand, Fabella, a well-known, respected, and trusted Familiano, was given the opportunity to function amongst the elite as a Zapatista. His instructions were to lay low, take things slow, and to spend his first couple of days out of prison with his wife and children. Shit, why didn't they tell me that? Probably wouldn't have got busted. Who were residing in Sacramento. He was to get situated, collect a $5,000 fine from Isaac Sueño Dimas, and contact Grattan in Modesto. A few days later, on or about April 14, 1998, Fabella drove to Modesto and contacted Nathaniel Little Souza, who gave him Grattan's home phone number. Fabella called Grattan, spoke to him briefly, and received directions to his house. Fabella indicated he was in the neighborhood and that he would be right over. Grattan didn't know anything about Fabella, but he did like his enthusiasm. When Fabella finally arrived at Grattan's house, Grattan was glad to see him. He could tell they would hit it off right away. Fabella seemed to be a doer and carried himself like a true Familiano. For those of you that don't know, Fabella Spider is a J-Cat. That's probably why they got along so fucking good. He was just the type of soldado Grattan was looking for. Once inside Grattan's house, Fabella revealed he had been sent by Rubalcaba and that his instructions were to function under Grattan's authority. He also let Grattan know that Grattan's title had been changed from underboss to regimental commander and that he was, in fact, ready to function however Grattan saw fit. He handed Grattan two huilas, handwritten by Rubalcaba, which read, here we go. Huila number 1. Due to previous dilemmas and turn of events, the leadership within the O has taken a firm stand and has full support of the people. Primarily, the security and advancement, as well as the best interests of the Familia's goals and objectives, must be organized for the longevity of our existence. The foundation and direction of our previous authority has failed to serve the people's best interests or fulfill the mandates, etc. We will no longer allow this misconduct and failure of advancement any longer. We all must have a clear perspective of the essentials that the O needs. Therefore, the people have exercised their right in electing an administration to push forward the wills and edicts of the O. This selected leadership will serve the people as guidance and authority for productive results. Our course and destiny can no longer be altered, dictated, or changed by one individual or under the guise of a mesa, as in the past. History has repeatedly allowed us the knowledge and experience with a clear understanding that we must have balance and foresight to what and who the O serves and our best interests. If a new governing council has been elected to serve the best interests of the clandestine O, they have remained loyal to the mob as well as to the people, because the people put them there and can vote them out. This ruling council is a governing body that will oversee all O activities and govern all the intricacies of our internal infrastructure and overall operations. Previously, the leadership continued to make major decisions of direction, etc., as if they alone were the supreme authority. This leads one to believe each acted as though they didn't have to answer to the people as a whole, which in time had a domino effect to the disruption of our primary purpose, goals, and objectives. The governing authority of which has been honored and elected will not govern independently, but as a council, which no individual is the supreme authority. Rather, one can't make any major changes of organizational mandates, concepts, etc. without the support of the other. This safeguard will further be in the deleting of any article or concept within the old Bible of which have the general or supreme commander the authority to govern the O, because the governing body now holds the authority within the O, which in essence is entrusted to the 3 OGB members. Another decision of which will be implemented for the best interest of our establishment will be the seating of the captains. This has been entrusted to those older C's that have remained loyal to the O and to the people. These captains will be the seasoned and experienced leadership to push for the course as mandated in our Bible. Therefore, under the authority and guidance of our governing council, as per the old Bible, they will number from 1 to 12, the lowest number being of higher authority. There is no longer a label as family boss, as the captains now govern the activities of said manpower. Therefore, there are no independent families, but street regiments. Each regiment will fall under the guidance and concepts of our Bible, etc. Therefore, each captain will have the authority over his assigned regiment and will function independently towards the goals and objectives and same direction for advancing the best interests and becoming self-supported for the Nuestra Familia as a whole. All laws and concepts will be put in full effect for the security, conduct, and discipline of the soldados under his designated regiment. We've previously encountered setbacks due to a direction that was pursued in which manpower was under assignments, such as a family. However, it was not serving the intended purpose because it was being manipulated by a corrupted, high-ranking figure. The soldados abided by said directive in honor, yet to finally come to find out and understand the conspirators didn't stick to the script and guidance, nor what was for the best interest of the O under the regiment. All C's on the streets will be held accountable for their responsibilities, whether as soldados or in a leadership role. Those assigned to a regiment will be under the direction of a street commander, and he will be responsible for the manpower under his jurisdiction. All C's and N's, those working towards our goals, said commander will be maintaining security and oversee the street activities. The security and activities of assigned soldados is to remain within the regiment functions. No one is to be discussing our internal operations, functions, etc. outside of their respective channels. All soldados are to maintain their conduct and discipline. Failure to keep in contact and be productive for the betterment of all will be considered desertion and abandoning territory. As per Old and Revised Bible, all must uphold their commitment and live and conduct themselves accordingly. The usage of drugs will not be tolerated. There will no longer be warnings on this, as we have no room for such habits. The manpower answers to the familia. However, on the streets, they are to function under the authority of the street commander. All C's must understand we will no longer tolerate them not complying or living up to their commitment. Those who don't adhere to the expectations will be dealt with accordingly. After reading the first Wheeler, Grattan saw that a lot of major changes were in the works. A new OGB had been elected, and the new leadership was serious about restoring the NF's reputation. Viramontes and Big Smiley were quickly ousted and were immediately placed on the NF's hit list. Viramontes was on his own. Grattan didn't think there was anything else he could do for him, but he would try. The second Wheeler was more than a reminder to Grattan to contact Rodolfo Rudy Ramirez in Tulare County. It was also a hit list, which Grattan knew he would receive sooner or later. He also knew he would ignore it. In part, this second Wheeler read, "When you get with Rudy, tell him that Danny Divisa must be put to sleep. No exceptions. Also, he can get the address of the Moscow Victor Murillo Divisa. He is to be dealt with. However, this vato is to be done without detection of NF hit. If he's hit, put his fingers into a 13. Anything that draws suspicion, Scrapa's made hit. You could get the info and one of your boys can handle it. Also, this C will get with you on the thing with Cafe. He is a priority. Rocky's mate was given your number to call you. He was supposed to be contacted by Cafe, so his instructions were to contact you and then you were to have Cafe dealt with. The mate was just to set him up, then go on about his business. If this has not transpired, then it must be done priority. This C will get with you on it. We can't let Cafe cause any more corruption. This one will put a big impact on all and will fall in place to what NF is all about. If Sueño don't get right, he too will be dealt with. Pilo de Salas is to be handled. Sueño can do this. I believe Sueño can find the vato. Eventually, Chato, OG, both are to be dealt with, as well as Poli. Those DOs in your area, but use discretion in this, for we don't get no heat in your hood. In order to take over Modesto, we can't have a lot of trash to threaten our activities. After reading the hit list, Grattan had more than enough reasons to have second thoughts about being in the mob, because he was a pussy, man. Not only did NF leaders want him to have 10 different NF members murdered, but they also wanted him to kill his best friend and mentor, Brown Bob, aka Cafe. This was one NF request that Grattan had no intention of fulfilling. He had never killed anyone in his life, and he sure in the hell wasn't about to kill Cafe, or anyone else for that matter. As a matter of fact, he was sick of all the internal confrontations and decided he would secretly try to warn Cafe that he was in imminent danger. Grattan was finally fed up with all the unnecessary killings, and he now saw NF leadership in the same light that he saw the MN. The only difference between the two was the amount of sophistication NF leaders used to manage and control their gang. Nevertheless, as Grattan's opinion of the mob changed, Fabella seemed to be getting established. He was reporting to Grattan via telephone on a daily basis and making thousands of dollars selling methamphetamine in the Sacramento area. Every Friday, he drove to Modesto to drop off his organizational percent of the mob's money and to pick up more dope. Fabella was on the move. He continued to show his loyalty to the NF, and Grattan placed him in charge of overall authority in Sacramento County. At the same time, Grattan continued to organize his manpower throughout Northern California. Fabella was taking care of business in Sacramento. Payaso was taking care of Turlock, and Sir Dino was dealing with Salinas. Everyone was doing his job. It looked as if the GUN CD was about to make some serious money, but Grattan's heart just wasn't in it. He did, however, continue to portray himself as a dedicated leader and even made a few more moves on behalf of the mob. But to his delight, things didn't always go as planned. In the early evening hours of June 2nd, 1998, Grattan received an unexpected phone call from Catherine Cat Fabella, Spider's wife. I met that fucking J-Cat. She's just like her brother. She's a fucking J-Cat. Let me tell you guys a little story real quick. So, the general sent me and my second in command out to Sacramento to meet this broad because she supposedly had some type of she had a lick lined up and there was supposed to be a lot of money involved with this shit. They didn't know exactly what it was. All they knew is that she had something lined up and it had a lot of money. There was a lot of potential involved with whatever it was. So they call me, they tell me to go out there and meet this broad. This fucking broad. What it ended up being is she knew a connection, and it was a small time connection that was selling meth. Probably wasn't even selling pounds. I think it was selling ounces or something like that. But what she wanted us to do, she wanted us to just go in, kick the door in, bum rush this dude. She didn't know if there was guns in the house. She didn't know if the dude carried a gun. She didn't know nothing about it. All she knew is there was money and dope in the house. We were supposed to just go kick the fucking door in and get the money. And then she expected half. Needless to say, we didn't do it. I told her we'd get back at her, but when I ended up telling Corny and Skip with this fucking bride what she had planned, they basically apologized to us and said, hey man, we thought it was something else. We shouldn't even have sent you out there. But I'm telling you, she's just like her fucking brother. She's a J-Cat. Some of the pictures of her brother are in this book. I'll try to have him posted, but you can just see by the way this fucking dude is posing that he's a fucking J-Cat. In the early evening hours of June 2nd, 1998, Grattan received an unexpected phone call from Catherine Cat Fabella, Spider's wife, who let him know that she had just been pulled over by a Sacramento deputy sheriff and that Fabella had been arrested on a parole violation. She explained what had occurred. After listening to everything, Grattan learned that Fabella had been wanted on a 3056 parole violation. After being stopped and arrested, his parole officer went to their house and conducted a search. During the search, one of the officers found a bag of bullets in the master bedroom and on the headboard of their bed, which resulted in Fabella being given the more serious charge of being a felon in possession of ammunition. A few days later, Cat forwarded Grattan a Sacramento County Sheriff's continuation report which read, 11:30 hours, 6/2/1998, Tuesday, I, Detective Aguilar, number 476, was contacted by parole officer Matt McCarthy. Officer McCarthy requested my assistance on an attempt pickup of Vidal Dominic Fabella, DOB 62167. Officer McCarthy stated that Fabella was wanted on a parole violation and was arrestable and requested our assistance to do a parole search on Fabella's residence at 7459 Willow Creek Drive, Citrus Heights. Officer McCarthy stated that Fabella was currently at his residence, but he did not know how long it would be before he would leave. I advised Officer McCarthy that I would immediately go over to Fabella's residence and watch the house to make sure Fabella did not leave. I advised our gang unit that I was going to Fabella's residence to watch the residence, and they advised me they would be arriving shortly. 11:45 hours. Upon arrival at San Juan Avenue and Willow Creek Drive, I observed a white vehicle with a female and a subject that looked like Fidel Fabella from my previous contact with him. I came alongside the vehicle and observed the passenger, a Hispanic male, and I recognized him to be Vidal Fabella. I proceeded to conduct a vehicle stop on the vehicle, California license plate 3XZY824. I stopped the vehicle and arrested Vidal Dominic Fabella. I advised him that his parole officer, Matt McCarthy, stated he had a violation of parole and was to be placed under arrest. Also with Fabella was his wife, Catherine Fabella, DOB 62167. A records check showed Catherine Fabella was clear of any warrants but was known to the system. I searched Fabella and removed all his property, his wallet, lighter, gloves, and approximately $13 in cash. Fucking baller. I advised Fabella that I was placing this in his wallet and set it on the sidewalk. I advised his wife that she could pick up his stuff before we left the scene, and she stated okay. I advised Detective Manis of my vehicle stop and requested that they expedite to my location, for Officer McCarthy had just arrived and requested we go search Fabella's residence at 7459 Willow Creek Drive. Detective Manis, Gomez, and Sergeant Fitch arrived at my location. I advised them Officer McCarthy requested their assistance on searching Fabella's residence. After the officers left and went to search Fabella's residence, they advised me via radio that they had secured the residence and had one person detained there with Fabella's infant child. I advised Fabella's wife, Catherine, that she could leave at that time and that we would be en route to their residence. I also advised her to pick up Vidal Fabella's wallet, and she just walked to her vehicle, and I did not observe her pick up the wallet or the property on the ground. Upon arrival at the residence, Detective Manis informed me that Officer McCarthy himself had located a Ziploc baggie full of approximately 27 rounds of .40 caliber Smith & Wesson ammunition on the headboard of Fabella's bed in his bedroom. I advised Fabella that he was being arrested for a new charge for having ammunition in his possession. Also, while at the residence, we found numerous items that were prohibited from Fabella to be in possession of, numerous gang posters and gang tapes and CDs which this officer retained. Officer McCarthy stated we could take all the gang items Fabella was not supposed to be in possession of, and we transported them to the narcotics gang office. Grattan knew Fabella was in trouble, and he truly felt bad for the guy. Fabella was a solid soldado, but he was too busy gangbanging and flashing his colors. He had been told to keep a low profile, and he didn't have any business keeping bullets in the house or GUN materials in his car. Fabella was well schooled, and Grattan couldn't figure out what he must have been thinking. Nevertheless, Fabella was in jail, and Grattan was more than happy to write him out of the picture. Fabella's incarceration was both good and not so good for Grattan. Regarding the good, Grattan could now put off having to act on Rubalcava's hit list. Regarding the not so good, Grattan could no longer count on Fabella's money. However, he did have other resources, but he just didn't know for how much longer he could rely on them. The following information was taken from a federal court document. Back in February 1998, after Mr. Grattan failed to carry out the orders brought to him by Samuel Sammy Cuizar and Vidal Spider Fabella, he received a home visit from Enrique Blackie Jacobs and an NF torpedo known as Oso. During the visit, Jacobs delivered a huila to Grattan. In the huila, Rubalcaba orders Mr. Grattan not to question the oral instructions that Jacob will be giving him, but to comply with those instructions immediately. Rubalcaba then goes on to upbraid Mr. Grattan for continuing to ignore and disregard his orders. Towards the end of the huila, Rubalcaba again admonishes Mr. Grattan that we have a chance to make things happen and it better not be compromised. After delivering the huila to Mr. Grattan, Jacobs advised him that due to his inaction, he, Jacobs, had now been instructed to oversee the killing of Brown Bob himself. Jacobs further advised Mr. Grattan that he would now have to answer to the NF leadership due to his failure to follow through with the Brown Bob murder plot, and that he was under very strict orders from Rubalcaba to provide Jacobs with $1,000 in cash. Furthermore, Jacobs explicitly told Mr. Grattan that if he did not follow these orders, he would suffer the consequences. Understanding this to be a threat on his life or the life of a family member, Mr. Grattan provided Jacobs with about 50 copies of the GUN CD, which had a street value of $20 a copy, thus a total of $1,000 in merchandise rather than the $1,000 in cash which Rubalcaba had ordered. Scandalous motherfucker, man.